They taught you early how to smile while hiding the storm, how to nod, agree, obey, just enough to stay liked. That's how the persona is born, the polished mask you wear so the world won't flinch. Jung said we all need it. It's how we move through society. But when you start believing the mask is you, something inside begins to suffocate. You become addicted to approval, the sweet poison of being seen, yet never known. The crowd's applause turns to chains. Every compliment binds you tighter to a version of yourself that isn't alive anymore. And deep down, your true self starts whispering from the dark, "I'm still here." That whisper is the beginning of individuation, the journey of burning away the false so the real can emerge. It's not self-improvement, it's self-remembrance. To stop caring what anyone thinks of you, you must watch the mask crack and not reach to fix it. Let the pieces fall. Let the silence that follows become your teacher. Before we descend further, comment this below. I am not my mask. Number 2. The shadow beckons. When you stop pretending, something ancient begins to stir. It's the shadow, the forgotten twin that carries everything you rejected to stay acceptable. Your rage, your envy, your lust, your pride, your wildness, all the emotions you buried to appear good. Jung said the shadow is not evil, it's simply unlived life, and when you refuse it, that energy turns against you, twisting itself into guilt, anxiety, and quiet self-disgust. The world reflects it back to you through the people you can't stand. Every person you secretly judge is a mirror showing you what you've exiled. Every irritation is an invitation to integration. To stop caring what anyone thinks, you must walk toward the very parts of yourself that you've been trained to hide. The shadow will test you. It will whisper, "What if they see who you really are?" Let them. That's the point. The path of individuation is not about perfection. It's about wholeness, about stepping into the wilderness of your psyche and shaking hands with your monsters. Once you do, the opinions of others lose their power because you've met the harshest critic already, yourself. In dreams, the shadow often appears as a stranger chasing you or a dark animal watching from the edge of the forest. It doesn't chase to harm, it chases to be seen. Every time you turn and face it, a piece of your strength returns. That's the alchemy of Jungian work, to turn fear into recognition and rejection into gold. The world can only shame the parts of you that you still fear. Once you make peace with them, no one can weaponize them against you. Comment below if you understand this truth. My darkness is my teacher. Number 3. The death of approval. There comes a moment when applause begins to sound like static, when validation feels hollow, and every compliment tastes like dust. That is the moment the old self begins to die. The persona you built for love and safety cannot survive in the airless truth of authenticity. Jung wrote that the greatest confrontations are not with others, but with the masks we cling to for meaning. You will feel the ache of withdrawal, the withdrawal from needing to be seen as good. Approval is the drug that numbs the pain of self-betrayal, and when you stop taking it, you feel the cold, the silence of no longer performing, the terrifying freedom of no longer being understood. But that death is sacred. When the external noise fades, you begin to hear the inner voice, quiet, patient, unyielding. It doesn't flatter you, it doesn't seduce, it simply waits for your honesty, and honesty in the Jungian sense is brutal compassion. It asks you to see the roles you played to be loved and to let them die with dignity. This is individuation, the funeral of your false selves. When you stop caring what anyone thinks, you don't become indifferent, you become sovereign. You move from the fragile ego to the center of the self, where peace no longer depends on performance. The crowd may misunderstand you. Let them. The wise soul knows that truth never asks for witnesses. The death of approval is the birth of power. Dark, quiet power that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, doesn't beg. In this silence, your presence becomes magnetic because it's real. People feel what is authentic more than they hear it. Comment below if you're ready to bury the mask for good. I choose truth over applause. Number 4. The Mirror of Rejection. Rejection is one of the oldest teachers of the soul. It strips the illusion that belonging equals worth. When someone rejects you, they are not seeing you. They are seeing the image that clashes with their own projection. Jung called this the psychological mirror. Every judgment we face is often a reflection of another person's unfinished story. Yet most people build their lives trying to manipulate those mirrors, adjusting themselves endlessly to avoid distortion. They forget that you cannot control how others see you, only how clearly you see yourself. To stop caring what anyone thinks, you must learn to let rejection purify you instead of poison you. Each rejection is an initiation. It cuts away the pieces of identity that were never truly yours. You begin to understand that people do not reject your essence. They reject the shadow you cast on their fears. If you become the mirror of someone's unintegrated darkness, they will turn away, not because you are wrong, but because they cannot yet face what you awaken in them. That's not your burden to carry. Jung's path is not about pleasing others, but about becoming whole enough to remain unshaken when others project their storms onto you. When you internalize rejection, you build walls of shame around your soul. When you transcend it, you build wings. You begin to move through life with the strange calm of someone who has seen their own depths and found no monster there, only unmet power. The opinions of others lose gravity when your sense of self is rooted in something deeper than approval, self-awareness. That is the true center of the self, the still point beneath the chaos of perception. So the next time you're misunderstood, remember this. Rejection is redirection from imitation toward authenticity. Each no you receive from the world pushes you closer to the yes of your own soul. It is your soul saying, stop begging to be seen and start seeing yourself. If rejection burns, let it burn everything false. Let it refine you into clarity, because once you see through the mirror, nothing anyone thinks can define you again. Comment below if you feel this truth burning within you. Rejection reveals my real self. Number 5. The descent into solitude. There comes a time when you must step away from the noise, from the endless scroll of faces and voices telling you who you should be. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the crucible where false identities are burned away and the soul begins to speak. Jung believed that every human must, at some point, enter their own wilderness, a psychological exile where the ego dissolves and the self begins to emerge from the ashes. This is the sacred descent, the initiation that no one else can take for you. It will feel like death, but it is the birth of authenticity. In solitude, you face the voices that once ruled you: fear, comparison, shame. Without the distraction of validation, you meet the raw essence of who you are beneath the world's gaze. At first, it's unbearable. You will crave the comfort of attention, the reassurance that you still exist in someone's eyes. But stay. Sit with the silence until it stops threatening you. The silence will become a mirror, and what it shows you will be your truest face, unadorned, unapproved, real. Jung wrote that the individual must separate from the collective to find their own psychic center. Only by stepping out of the tribe can you hear the voice that belongs only to you. The world may call it isolation. The mystics called it transformation. In that stillness, you begin to sense something vast. The archetype of the hermit holding a lantern in the dark. He represents wisdom born from solitude, truth revealed in absence. You are not alone in your aloneness. Countless souls before you have walked this same invisible path. The ego fears it because solitude kills illusion. But the self rejoices because it remembers what freedom feels like when no one is watching. When you return from solitude, the world won't have changed. You will have. Approval will seem weightless, criticism will lose its teeth, and the crowd's noise will sound like distant thunder instead of command. That is the quiet liberation of individuation. Comment below if you felt that sacred silence calling you. In my solitude, I awaken. Number 6. The alchemy of the self. Transformation is not light. It is not peaceful. It is fire, pressure, and dissolution. Jung compared psychological growth to alchemy, the ancient process of turning lead into gold. But the real alchemy happens within you. The lead is your unconscious, heavy, dense, unrefined. The gold is consciousness, luminous, whole, and incorruptible. To stop caring what anyone thinks of you, you must endure that inner alchemy. You must allow every illusion, fear, and false loyalty to melt in the crucible of awareness. Most people run from this fire, mistaking the burning for destruction. But in truth, it's purification. Individuation demands the courage to die before you die, to let every false self be burned until only essence remains. The first stage is nigredo, the blackening. This is the breakdown, the confusion, the existential darkness when the old personality collapses. You feel lost, unseen, directionless. But this is the necessary death of the persona. Then comes albedo, the whitening. Clarity begins to dawn. You start to see your patterns, your wounds, your projections. You see the machinery of your mind for what it is. The false light of validation loses its spell. You begin to sense a deeper radiance, something that doesn't depend on applause. Finally comes rubedo, the reddening, the union of opposites. Here, the shadow and the persona meet. The conscious and unconscious merge. You become paradoxical, soft and fierce, humble and unshakable, light and dark in harmony. This is wholeness. This is what Jung called the self, the divine core that stands beyond opinion. Every time someone disapproves of you and you no longer flinch, you are practicing inner alchemy. Every moment you choose truth over performance, you forge gold out of the dross of fear. This is not arrogance, it is sacred sovereignty. The alchemist does not seek to please the village. He seeks to know the secret of his own spirit. That's what you are doing. Learning to transmute rejection into wisdom, pain into power, and judgment into detachment. The beauty of Jung's insight is that the self doesn't emerge through addition, but subtraction. You do not become whole by adding more affirmations or personas. You become whole by letting go of everything that isn't real. The process is slow, brutal, and magnificent. And when the fire cools, you realize the truth. There was never anything wrong with you. You were simply becoming who you were meant to be all along. Comment below if you're ready to enter your inner alchemy. I turn my pain into gold. Number 7. The archetype of the rebel soul. There is a moment in every soul's evolution when obedience becomes poison, when the polite nod, the quiet agreement, the false humility all begin to rot in your mouth. That moment is sacred rebellion. Jung would call it the activation of an archetype, the rebel soul, the inner Prometheus who dares to steal fire from the gods of conformity. To stop caring what anyone thinks of you, you must awaken this archetype. You must risk being misunderstood, ridiculed, exiled, even hated, because the price of authenticity is always comfort. The crowd loves the version of you that mirrors their approval. They fear the version that reflects their own unfreedom. Individuation is an act of quiet revolution, not against society, but against psychological slavery. The rebel soul doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for rebellion's aesthetics, the black clothes, the slogans, the noise. Its defiance is internal. It simply stops pretending. It refuses to bow to invisible gods, reputation, politeness, acceptance. It reclaims the authority that was projected onto others and says, "I decide who I am." Jung wrote that modern people suffer from the loss of myth, and so they unconsciously serve collective opinions as if they were divine law. The rebel soul breaks that spell. It takes back the power of naming, the right to exist without justification. Every act of authenticity is a spark of fire carried from that mythic mountain where Prometheus defied Olympus. And yes, the punishment will come. The eagle of judgment will tear at you daily, but in the wound, you'll discover immortality. The part of you that cannot die is born precisely where you dared to disobey. Society thrives on masks because masks are predictable. The individuated human is unpredictable, a threat to systems built on approval and fear. When you stop caring what anyone thinks, you destabilize the entire illusion of consensus. You become a living question mark, a mystery that cannot be categorized. And that is freedom. Jung warned that becoming oneself isolates you from the collective, but that isolation is holy ground. You are no longer a role, you are a presence. You no longer seek validation, you radiate conviction. The rebel soul is not reckless, it is sovereign. It acts not out of defiance for its own sake, but out of fidelity to inner truth. It knows that rebellion without consciousness is just another form of conformity. True rebellion is refinement, the ability to choose your own chains and then dissolve them. Once you awaken this energy, you begin to see how most people live in quiet despair, imprisoned by the gaze of others. You start to understand that freedom terrifies them. It's easier to mock what they cannot embody. But the rebel soul doesn't retaliate. It smiles because it knows projection when it sees it. When you embody this archetype, life becomes art again. Every choice, every boundary, every silence becomes a brushstroke of sovereignty. You no longer seek permission to exist. You realize that the universe already approved of you by creating you. The rest is noise. Comment below if your rebel soul has awakened. I answer only to my truth. Number 8. The silence of the self. There is a moment after rebellion when the fire cools, when the noise fades, and what remains is silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of arrival. You've burned through masks, faced your shadow, rejected the comfort of belonging, and walked through solitude until your own thoughts no longer frighten you. This is the threshold Jung called the meeting with the self, the quiet revelation that everything you sought was within you all along. When you stop caring what anyone thinks, it's not because you become cold. It's because you finally hear something deeper than opinion, your own inner voice, unfiltered, unnegotiated, timeless. The self doesn't argue, it doesn't convince, it simply is. It exists like a mountain, unmoved by praise, unshaken by scorn. In this silence, the world still speaks, but differently. Every rejection becomes instruction. Every misunderstanding becomes a mirror. You stop asking, "Why don't they see me?" and begin asking, "What am I still refusing to see in myself?" That is the essence of analytical psychology, the understanding that the outer world is an inner landscape projected outward. The faces around you are fragments of your psyche, dancing on the stage of reality, acting out the parts you've disowned. To stop caring what they think is to stop being hypnotized by your own projections. You wake up inside the dream. The ego will resist this silence. It thrives on noise, on comparison, attention, and identity. But when you stay still long enough, the ego loses its dominance. What rises then is something infinitely larger. The self, the organizing principle of your being, the divine center that Jung described as both deeply personal and profoundly universal. Here, you no longer seek to impress, you seek to express. You no longer react, you respond. Your worth is no longer measured in others' eyes, but in the weight of your presence. You begin to sense life itself as a dialogue between your soul and the unknown. This is the calm after the psychic storm, the moment the alchemist opens the furnace and finds gold where there was once lead. You realize the entire journey, the masks, the shadows, the pain, the solitude, was never punishment. It was purification. Individuation is not about becoming superior to others, but about becoming complete within yourself. When you reach this silence, the need for validation dissolves because truth has taken its place. Now you can walk through the world as you are, light and shadow intertwined, radiating authenticity that requires no defense. People will sense it. Some will be drawn to it. Others will be unsettled by it. That's how you know it's real. The true self doesn't need to be liked. It needs to be lived. If you felt the stillness rising within you, that deep, wordless knowing, comment below. My silence is my strength. Number 9. The sacred wound. Every soul carries a secret wound. It's the crack through which light enters and fear escapes. For most, that wound becomes a lifelong avoidance, a tender place guarded by lies, defended by pride, buried under laughter or anger. But for those who walk Jung's path of individuation, the wound becomes a compass. It points you inward, toward the place where the false self died and the real one began to breathe. To stop caring what anyone thinks of you, you must stop protecting the wound as if it's shameful. You must open it consciously, let it speak its truth, and listen without flinching. Jung believed that what we call neurosis is often the soul's attempt to heal itself, a spiritual cry disguised as suffering. That means your pain is not punishment, it's instruction. The sacred wound is the meeting place of the conscious and the unconscious. It's where your childhood masks first cracked under pressure, where the world's expectations burned your innocence into silence. But if you lean close enough beneath the scar tissue, you'll hear something ancient whispering, remember who you are. Pain is memory, the body's way of recalling what the mind refused to face. When you bring awareness to it, the wound transforms from prison to portal. It becomes the bridge between your human fragility and your divine depth. The world fears people who've made peace with their wounds because they cannot be manipulated through shame. They've walked through humiliation and found wisdom there. They've looked at the part of themselves they were told to hate and said, I love you anyway. That's real power. That's what it means to be whole, not to be flawless, but to be fearless in your flaws. In Jungian symbolism, this stage is embodied by the archetype of the wounded healer, Chiron, the immortal centaur who suffered an incurable wound yet used it to heal others. Your own wound can become the same. When you accept your pain, you stop projecting it. You stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. Compassion blooms naturally because you've seen your own darkness and survived it. From that survival comes grace, quiet, unshakable grace. You no longer seek validation because the wound already humbled you. You no longer need to prove your worth because the pain already tested it. The sacred wound teaches the paradox at the heart of individuation. That healing is not the absence of suffering, but the full integration of it. You walk with scars that gleam like gold, each one a symbol of something you faced and refused to run from. And so, when others judge you, you smile. You know they are only seeing your surface, the scar, not the story. Their opinion cannot touch what's sacred within you. They can wound your image, but never your essence. That's the liberation of knowing who you are beneath the wound, the self that is untouchable, vast, eternal. If your pain has become your teacher, if your scars now speak truth instead of shame, comment below. My wound is my wisdom. Number 10. The return of the self. When the journey ends, you don't emerge as someone new. You return as who you've always been, but this time, you know it. The masks are gone, the noise has faded, and what remains is presence, raw, quiet, whole. This is the final stage of Jung's path, the return of the self. It's not a victory parade, it's a homecoming. The ego bows before something larger, something ancient. You stop chasing meaning because you've become the meaning. The need for approval dissolves in the calm knowing that life itself is your mirror and every reflection was just leading you back here. When you no longer care what anyone thinks of you, you don't become careless. You become clear. You speak less, but each word carries weight. You act without performance. You move like water, unresisting, unstoppable. Jung wrote that the self is both the center and the circumference of the psyche, the point around which the chaos of personality finds balance. That's what you feel now. Balance. Not perfection, but harmony. Light and dark no longer fight, they dance. The opinions of others flutter past you, like moths against glass. You wish them peace, but you no longer mistake their perception for your identity. This is the quiet power of individuation, not to dominate the world, but to stand unshaken within it. You realize that those who judge are still fighting their own shadows. You don't need to prove, correct, or explain. Your existence is enough. You've become the observer, calm, grounded, luminous from within. The world's chaos continues, but you move through it like a lucid dreamer who finally understands the dream. Now every breath feels intentional, every moment feels sacred. You see how the journey through pain, rejection, solitude, and alchemy wasn't punishment, it was initiation. You've crossed from imitation into creation. You are no longer reacting to life. You are participating in its mystery. That is freedom. That is truth. If you've walked this far, leave your final mark in the comments. I am whole and I am free. And if this message found your soul tonight, remember, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is the shadow self. Your descent was never the end. It was the beginning of your becoming.